What's up, everyone? This is Steve with the MMA Minute, and welcome to the MMA Minute Show. UFC 299 is finally here. Usually we do a Wednesday show, but I had my picks ready to go just a couple weeks ago, so we're a little anxious. We're getting this out on a Monday for you guys. We have a stacked agenda today. First, a $100 jackpot giveaway. Make sure to stay tuned for that. We'll do a quick recap of last weekend, UFC Vegas 87, and then the reason you're all here, my picks and predictions for the UFC 299 Supercard. If time allows, we'll end with some fan questions, but that seems pretty unlikely because it's all UFC 299. It's a massive card. We have a lot to go over. I don't think we'll have time for it, but if there are things that you want to skip around to, we have the timestamps down below. And before we start, guys, the Patreon is back up and running. If you want early access to my bets, picks, and predictions for every card, my Patreon has you covered. I've also partnered with MMA Premium and UFC Genie, so you'll get 3 analysts for the price of 1. All the links are below down in the description. Make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. So we'll get right into the jackpot giveaway. As I said before, $100. That's where the prize money is at right now. That could be you winning it. Here's how to win. If you can guess how many total significant strikes will be landed in the first 2 rounds of O'Malley versus Vera, you'll win the giveaway. But if no one gets it right, the jackpot will keep carrying over week after week until someone wins. Every week there's no winner. I'll just keep putting money into the pot to build it up. So again, let me know in the comments below how many total combined significant strikes will we see between O'Malley and Vera in the first 2 rounds. 1 entry per person. If there's a tie, I'll pick a winner at random, and winners will be announced in the following week's video. So, as I just said, UFC Vegas 87. Just a quick recap. Not a whole bunch to go over there, but we did okay. I think we just missed 2 out of a 10 or 11 total fights. So we nailed Loic as one of the underdogs. We did not hit Zahavi, which still blows my mind that he won that fight. And unfortunately, we did not pick Rosenstrike. So those were the 3 underdogs. We did get Loic. We got everything else right. One of the biggest takeaways for sure was Basharat. I mean, what did he climb up to? -700, -800, maybe even -900. He was a massive favorite. And Zahavi goes in there, unanimous across the board, 29-28. And the power was the difference. And that was what I said about Basharat, is that he's so well-rounded everywhere, but he doesn't have finishing upside. He doesn't have big power in his hands. So the rounds were able to be swung because Zahavi landed, almost as many strikes. I think if you look at the numbers, it wasn't that far off, but it was the power shots of Zahavi. So that was pretty crazy. We had the Oliveira versus Sopai fight. That was looking like a great fight. Sopai just didn't have any steam left. And that was one of the most vicious knockouts I've ever seen. It was a flying knee basically to end round 3 by Oliveira. It was, if you haven't seen it, make sure to go check it out. It was one of the nastiest knockouts, one of the cleanest flying knees you have ever seen. It was absolutely insane. That was awesome. Not too far off after that, Erceg against Matt Schnell. He goes in there. He probably got a performance bonus. He knocked Matt Schnell's lights out. Erceg is an absolute problem. He's going to climb into the top 10. Cousin Umar, how close was that fight to being finished? And at the end of the day, for Umar, 30-26, there was even a 30-25 thrown in there. That was the closest 30-26, 30-25 you've ever seen, because at any point that it was on the feet, you were scared that Beksat was going to land another big shot. But Beksat, shout out to him, very dangerous striker. Even on the mat, Umar is world class, so he did survive. He did not get submitted. He was able to scramble a couple times, get back to his feet. He's going to be a problem just with Cousin Umar. Again, I've said it before. He is probably a future champ, but now maybe we change the tune just a little bit. That Corey Sandhagen fight, that's going to tell us a lot. After that, guys, I don't know. Muhammad Mokaev, literally, is anybody impressed by this guy? He's skating through, taking, a pretty easy route to get to the top 5, and maybe he ends up getting a title shot. That would be kind of crazy in my mind, but he just might be the next guy up. But is anybody impressed by him? Barely skated by Alex Perez. He doesn't have striking. I'm sorry. The volume isn't there. When he does land, it seems to have decent power, but It's just one shot after one shot. We're not really seeing combinations. He's not really setting up his takedowns all that well. The wrestling is obviously very high level. If he gets you to the ground, he can be a problem. But Perez was doing a great job stuffing those takedowns and staying out of danger. So, in my opinion, this feels like it may be the ceiling for Makhachev. I don't know how much better his wins are going to get after taking out Perez, who I think was like number 8 ranked. So he's going to start hitting those top 5 guys. I can't wait to fade him. I'll just say that. I can't wait to fade him. So I'm curious to see what you guys think. But after the fight, he comes out, says he was sick. I don't know how long that was going on. I don't know how much that really affected him. But, you know, I've heard those excuses before. But as of right now, he's still overrated. I'm not buying into it. And then to end the night, Gaziev. I've been calling him Gaziev. Apparently it's Gaziev. I did pick him to win the fight. He is an absolute problem. The only problem is that lasts for about 1.5 rounds. You see it in round 1. He's an absolute killer, right? When he's able to take the fight to the ground, especially, I mean, he's super aggressive. He stays in your face. If he can work in those takedowns, he's a monster on the ground. But as this goes into rounds 2, he starts to fade. If he's not able to get those takedowns, he can be exposed on the feet. Rosenstrike still was being so patient, so gun shy for so long. But as the fight, went into round 2, 3, 4, obviously didn't get into 5. It almost did. It didn't get into 5 because Gaziev flat out quit. So I don't know. Overall, weird main event. I don't know if anyone really saw that happening. I did say Gaziev was going to be the rightful side, but I also said a live betting situation was going to be something to look at on the Rosenstrike side, and it definitely was. So credit to Rosenstrike. He went out there, got another win. He's 36 years old. I don't really see him going anywhere into the top 10, into the top 5 anytime soon. He seems like he's already peaked, but a nice win from him, and Gaziev gets absolutely exposed. Again, there's still potential there for him to get early finishes, but outside of that, dude, he doesn't have it. He just completely gassed out and had nothing to offer. He was getting pieced up on the feet. So overall, kind of a weird night. We're not going to do any segments, buy, sell, hold. We usually do what's trending. It just doesn't really matter because we're on to UFC 299. Just a couple of sponsors to shout out here. Obviously, well, not obvious because you guys don't know this, but one of the things that I wanted to bring up was I am no longer a part of We Want Picks. That was just a personal decision on my end. I wanted to go back to my own Patreon, just have a little bit more freedom in the content that I make. Instead of plugging someone else's product, I can plug my own. So there's some freedom to be had in that. So nothing bad to say about WeWantPicks.com. I talked to Angelo for a while. He's the man. I love the guys over there. Nothing but respect mutually. So I'm no longer with We Want Picks, but if you want to check out the Patreon is back up. Picks, predictions, bets. I've teamed up with a couple other MMA betting analysts. If you want to check that out, the link is going to be down below in the description. Also, Odds Jam. If you use promo code MINUTE, you're getting 35% off plus a free week trial. They have a positive EV tool, which I've talked about before. They will literally look across 30 different sports books and say the over 1.5 here is minus 200, but you can actually go to this sports book for the same thing and get it at minus 140. So they're literally shopping you the best deal. They also are big into arbitrage betting. They have a cool tool for that. So it's all very data driven. Make sure to check them out. Link's going to be down below. BetUS, I have a 125% deposit bonus you guys can check out. And that's pretty much it for sponsors. So if you haven't yet, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And we're just going to get into it, guys. UFC 299. Okay, this is a super card. It's headlined by the O'Malley and Chito Vera rematch. We saw these guys square off. Kind of feels like forever ago. I think it was about 4 years, maybe around 2020. Chito did pick up the W. It's a controversial W because there was an injury sustained by O'Malley. You can say it was from the Vera kicks. Maybe he checked a couple early on there. I don't really know. The doctors make it seem like it was some weird fluke injury. So either way, Sean O'Malley, he is your champion. He is making his first title defense here in the rematch. It's a big storyline. Everybody loves it. This card is taking place in Miami. Early prelims, 6 p.m. Prelims, 8 p.m. Main card. As always, pay-per-views starts at 10 p.m. So this is going to be a fun one. And the way that I like to do this, we are going to start with the main card. Work bottom to top, then we'll go through the rest of the card, the prelims, the early prelims, do more of a quick pick style. So the first fight that we have opening the main card, as I mentioned, this is a super card. So we are getting Petr Yan versus Song Yadong. Petr Yan is minus 135, 5'7", 31 years old. He has a 67-inch reach, taking on Song Yadong, who is plus 115, 5'8", only 26 years old, 67-inch reach. This is a massive fight in the bantamweight division. I'm very excited for it. The rise and fall of Petr Yan, it's been hard to cope with, especially because I'm a huge Petr Yan fan. I firmly believed he was still the best 135er on the planet, but he loses to Merab, he loses to Sean O'Malley, he loses to Aljamain Sterling. I have to concede he's not the best bantamweight, but I do believe he is still top 5. Even at 31 years old, even on a couple fight skid here, I still believe he's got it. He's got excellent striking, good pace, good cardio, strong takedown defense, and good offensive wrestling. Song Yadong, on the other hand, he's been making big moves to become a legit number 1 contender. He's young, as I mentioned, 26 years old. He's explosive. He's well-rounded. But I'm still pausing a little bit. I'm still not totally convinced that he's that guy. Corey Sandhagen, in their fight, he got outlanded 94-54. In the Chris Gutierrez fight, a fight that you'd say he maybe dominated in, he got outlanded by Chris 87-77. I think he still makes questionable decisions at times that kind of gives away rounds in the process. And I just see this being an absolute war between two very high-level guys who are both very well-rounded. This is most likely going to go to decision. These guys rarely get finished, if ever. Personally, maybe call it a bias. I'm leaning on the Petr Yan side. I still believe in the talent, even at 31. You can't really bet confidently either way. You're seeing these lines starting to tighten up. But overall, I have to go with Petr Yan here, and I'm going by decision. Next fight, Gilbert Burns taking on Della Maddalena. The card just keeps getting better and better. Gilbert Burns right now, plus 110, 5'10", 37 years old, 71-inch reach, taking on JDM, Della Maddalena, who's minus 130. He is 5'11". He is 27 years old. He has a 73-inch reach. This is a great fight. Burns is the longtime proven UFC veteran, and JDM is kind of the shiny new prospect who's not really a prospect anymore. I mean, this guy is going to be within title contention very soon. Burns, definitely a big power puncher on the feet, but he also has the ability to get the fights down to the mat where he shows world-class BJJ. He's a longtime 155er, now moved up to 170, where he still looks pretty solid. We've seen him before in title fights. He's fought big names, Chimaev, Bilal, Wonderboy, Tyron Woodley. Bilal, Wonderboy, Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley, low-key tongue twister. But either way, in this spot, I think he's going to be outmatched. JDM, he's the more natural 170er. He has some of the cleanest boxing in the UFC. He stays defensively sound, and he shows strong takedown defense. That's going to be a big key here. I know a lot of people will look back at the Basil Hafez fight and kind of say Burns can do that and more. But JDM was in a weird spot. If you guys remember, he was supposed to fight on a pay-per-view like a week or two before. And then last minute, the fight got canceled. Then they rebooked him on the Apex against who is turning out to be maybe a really good prospect in Hafez. Very dangerous. Someone he wasn't able to really prepare for beforehand. So I give JDM the pass there. I think he's going to be very prepared for Gilbert Burns and the takedowns. And if this fight is staying standing, I'm going to take the guy who's more technical, who's more accurate, and who's still dealing some powerful shots. So yes, Burns has that dog in him. He shows incredible toughness. We've seen that time and time again, but he has been dropped before. He has been finished before. I'm going with Della Maddalena to find a late round 3 knockout. And again, unreal fight. Unreal fight. This main card is absolutely stacked. And this next one, very interesting. We have Kevin Holland taking on MVP Michael Page. Finally made it over to the UFC. Kevin Holland right now, minus 130. He's 6'3", 31 years old, 81-inch reach, taking on Michael Page, who's plus 110, 6'3" as well, 36 years old, a little bit older here, 79-inch reach. So they signed Michael Page. He's 36 years old. He's been a long-time Bellator guy. Obviously, a lot of hype on his name. He's making his way over. So I knew about him I've heard about him. I didn't really see any of his fights, but I went back, I taped him, and this is what I've seen. He shows good footwork. He's very light on his feet. He bounces in and out of range. He throws with massive intent. He's got big power, sneaky spinning attacks, very athletic, but he also definitely has some negatives. The takedown defense doesn't look great. He fights with his hands super low, and he's low volume. He's powerful. He's dangerous, but he is very low volume. He is way too patient for my liking. Now, the takedown defense aspect, that doesn't really matter. If Kevin Holland had any sense of a fight IQ, he would become more of a wrestler, because I think he, with the size, definitely down to 170, I think he could be a problem. But he refuses to go down to the mat. He just wants to put on a show. That's the biggest knock that I have on Kevin Holland, is he has all the talent in the world, but the fight IQ just isn't there. And it's really just based out of stubbornness, if anything. But overall, Kevin Holland, in my opinion, he's actually one of my most confident picks. I think he's actually going to destroy Michael Page. I think he's going to spoil the debut of MVP. Page, as we talked about, he has big size, a huge reach, typically has that advantage in his fights, but Holland is just as big and actually has a 2-inch reach advantage here. Page is also 36 years old, 5 years older than Holland, and Holland will be much, much busier, and he hits just as hard, in my opinion. He also has a cast iron chin. He has solid 3-round cardio. It just, to me personally, it feels like Kevin Holland at minus 130. It's a gift. It's the first bet that I placed on my Patreon. I'm feeling very confident. Again, link down in the description if you want early access to the Patreon. But it's Kevin Holland for me. MVP is durable. He is tough. He's going to be tough to get out of there. But I think Kevin Holland is that type of guy, man. He just digs deep. I think he can find a finish. So we're going with a Kevin Holland round 3 knockout. And that's going to be fireworks either way. Either we're going to get a 3-round war or someone's going to be put out. That's going to be a banger. And speaking of bangers, the co-main event. We get 5 fights on this main card. Every single one is stacked. We have Dustin Poirier, the legend himself, 5'9", 35 years old, 72-inch reach. He is plus 155 as the underdog. Benoit Saint Denis, he is minus 185. He is 5'11". He is 28 years old, and he has a 73-inch reach. Guys, Dustin Poirier, in my opinion, if not the best fighter, he's definitely got to be up there in consideration, but I think he is the greatest fighter to never win a belt. Look at some of the names on the resume at lightweight. Actually, I think the Max Holloway fight, that was at 145. Then the second time was at 155. So it's actually 2 times he beat Max Holloway, beats Bobby Green, beats Jim Miller, Showtime Pettis, Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, Dan Hooker, Connor 2 times, Michael Chandler. Like, he has one of the best lightweight resumes we've ever seen. He's high volume. He has excellent boxing. He has good cardio, sneaky good offensive wrestling. But most importantly, he's got that dog in him. He shows that just about in every fight. But there are a couple flaws. He is willing to engage in wars, meaning he can be hit a lot. When you talk about a guy who is 35 years old, who has 37 professional fights, he's been in the UFC for over 10 years now, that's a lot of wear and tear. That's a lot of mileage. That does concern me. And even if you want to get into a little bit more, I don't think the takedown defense is necessarily the best. We have seen him get submitted multiple times in the UFC. And I do mention, the durability. He's got the heart. He's got the toughness, but he has been finished in 6 of 8 of his losses. That's not great. When you're going against Benoit Saint Denis, talking about a former French Special Operations Marine, like, this guy is an absolute beast. He doesn't have half the experience of Dustin Poirier, but I've seen plenty just to be a believer on the few fights that we have seen him win, especially recently. So he is aggressive. He is tough. He is durable. His striking is deadly, but above all, he has strong takedowns, and he does have big-time submission upside, and I think that's going to be a problem here. I love Dustin Poirier and all that he's accomplished, but I'm rocking with the up-and-comer in Benoit Saint Denis. The one knock that I can say is I believe this is going to be a 5-round fight. We've never seen BSD go 5 rounds. Do I think he can't? No. I think this guy at 28 years old, he is hitting his peak. I think the conditioning is definitely going to be there. So with that said, the Benoit Saint Denis hype train, it keeps moving. It's just the wear and tear on Dustin Poirier. Coming off a knockout loss to Justin Gaethje, 35 years old. I hate to do it. I hate picking against Dustin Poirier, especially as an underdog. But it's Benoit Saint Denis for me, and I'm going to go with a round 3 submission. So that takes us to our main event, guys. Sean O'Malley taking on Marlon Vera. Sean O'Malley, he is the favorite. Minus 250, 5'11", 29 years old, 72-inch reach. Chito Vera, plus 205 as the underdog. 5'8", 31 years old, 70.5-inch reach. This is going to be a great fight. As I said before, this is a rematch. We saw this fight take place about 4 years ago. And it was Marlon Vera who walked away with the win. You will see Sean O'Malley, he is 17-1. The one loss is to Chito. What happened in that fight? I went back and I watched it. Sean O'Malley is taking care of business. He is winning that fight for the first 2-3 minutes of that first round. Cruising on the feet, utilizing his length and the range, showing good mobility, good footwork, and then a freak foot injury severely compromised him. And as soon as that happened, you can literally see it. As soon as it happens, Vera starts to take over. He gets aggressive. He gets in his face. Sean loses the mobility. He can't go anywhere. Fight goes down to the ground. Chito gets the finish. So what do I take away from that? Sean, when he was healthy, was winning that fight. In general, I think Sean O'Malley at this point, it's probably safe to say this guy is a top 3 striker in the entire UFC. If not, maybe the best striker in the UFC right now. Peaking at 29 years old, coming off what was a round 1 finish over the former champ Aljamain Sterling. Some people who are saying is the greatest bantamweight of all time. Not me personally, but some people are saying that. Assuming Sean is healthy, he wins this fight. That's how I see it. Chito, as always, has been way too patient, way too willing to give up early rounds just to find his timing. If he's more aggressive, if he attacks the legs, if he drags Sean to the mat, that's where he's going to have a chance. But overall, I think I saw enough. I think I have seen enough in general of Sean O'Malley to know that he's going to have the striking advantage. And then I've seen way too many times that Chito just takes his time. Drops round 1, drops round 2. Losing to Dom Cruz. Gets dominated by Corey Sandhagen. Even in the Frankie Edgar fight, you could say he was potentially losing that one as well. The Pedro Munhoz fight, yeah, it was a unanimous decision his way. Look at the striking numbers, it's neck and neck. And he is very hittable because he's just a zombie, always moving forward, extremely durable. Both these guys are extremely durable. I expect this fight to go to decision. But I like Sean to go ahead, get the win. Solid cardio, elite level striking, big power as well. And I think his grappling could surprise us if Chito even does get it to the mat. I'm a big fan of Chito. Every person is. I could see a lot of people fading Sean just because he's Sean. But end of the day, I think he wins the fight. Give me O'Malley to win by decision. Picks up his first title defense. And that's the main card right there. We're now going to move into some quick picks. We're going to go into the prelims here. We have Curtis Blaydes taking on Jailton Almeida. Curtis Blaydes, minus 110, 6'4", 33 years old, 80-inch reach. Almeida, minus 110 as well, 6'3", 32 years old, 79-inch reach. This is a main event, a headliner on almost every other card. This is your prelim headliner. This is insane. I absolutely love this. So, both guys, very similar game plans. Wrestle and grapple your way to victory. They both have insanely positive striking differentials because their control time is dominant. Both secure more than 5 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is wild for heavyweights. Either the grappling is going to be a stalemate and we see kind of a weird striking match. Kind of think about like Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington. The wrestling was basically taken off the table and they were forced to stand. Luckily, that was actually a fun fight. Both guys can strike. Could be a little bit dicey here. Blaydes versus Almeida in a 15-minute striking affair. That's a coin flip to me. If anything, I probably lean Blaydes as a slightly better striker. Or we're going to see someone's grappling be superior to the others. If I had to pick, Almeida probably has a slight grappling advantage. Blaydes, slight striking advantage. Almeida, slight grappling advantage. And another thing to note, if you're talking about cardio, I probably also go with Blaydes, giving him the advantage there because he trains at elevation. Not really sure Almeida has the best gas tank, especially looking at that last 5-round fight where it looked like he was gassed pretty much halfway through the fight. So those are a couple things, but in general, we're seeing minus 110. That feels correct to me. It's a coin flip type of fight. To make this decision, Almeida has 61% of the public and 79% of the money. Yet the line isn't really moving heavily in his direction. If anything, I think we've actually seen it swing to Blaydes at one point. So that's like reverse line movement. To me, that feels like it's a trap on Almeida, knowing that the public is going to back this guy, but we're still seeing dead even odds. It's not moving. That freaks me out. That's enough for me to just take Blaydes here. Both guys are durable. Let's go with Blaydes by decision. Next fight, Kaitlyn Sermonara. I'm going to call her Chookagian. Taking on Maycee Barber. We have Chookagian plus 165 underdog, 5'9", 35 years old, 68-inch reach. Maycee Barber is minus 195, 5'5", 25 years old, 65-inch reach. Haven't really seen Chookagian in there a whole bunch. Like I said, she's now 35 years old, probably on the back half of her career. She is always a tough out, though. She's a high-level technical striker, and she's a master at outpointing her opponents. But kind of like Basharat, she lacks the power. She doesn't have finishability on the ground, and I think her takedown defense is probably going to be her Achilles heel. When we look at some of her past losses, usually opponents are mixing in the wrestling. Maycee Barber can do that. In my opinion, the jury is still out. Just how good she is, I don't know. I'm not a firm believer. She only has 2 losses professionally. I'm just not a firm believer. She is going to have the power edge. She is going to have the wrestling edge. But I could see Chookagian playing spoiler here. If she is able to stuff the takedowns, I think she could easily outclass and outpoint Barber on the feet. That's where I'm going to lean. It's a low confidence pick, but give me a good old classic Chookagian by decision. Next fight, we got Gamrot taking on RDA. Gamrot minus 385, 5'10", 33 years old, 70.5-inch reach. Taking on the legend himself, RDA, plus 290, 5'8", 39 years old, 70-inch reach. I just have to flat out say, I think the fight is closer than the odds suggest. Minus 385, creeping up to minus 400 on the Gamrot side. I don't love that at all. Stylistically, it feels like this is pretty close. Gamrot is going to have the wrestling edge, but RDA probably has that volume and the striking edge if it does stay on the feet. We have seen RDA in the past. He's at 155. He'll move up to 170. I never really loved him at 170 to begin with. I just mentioned he's 5'8", 70-inch reach. That doesn't really do you favors when you're taking on welterweights, but he's still competitive at 170, which is very impressive. So I like the move back down to 155. I do think, if anything, that is going to help his takedown defense, not having to go against such a bigger guy up at 170 like he does when he's up at welterweight. So that's going to be better here. On the Gamrot side, the record's a little sketchy for me. He probably lost to Jalen Turner. He definitely lost to Arman Tsarukyan, in my opinion. I still have no idea how the judges scored it for him. He got handled by Beneil Dariush, and he probably would have lost to Fiziev if that fight continued. But at the same time, every name that I just said, they're all elite level. So he gets a pass, and he did pick up a couple wins there. So say what you want about Gamrot, but he still belongs in that top 10, top 5 conversation. But for me, ultimately, the wrestling, that's going to be the biggest deciding factor here. And the fact that Gamrot just pushes an insane pace, averaging over 4 takedowns per 15 minutes, that's enough to me where he's probably going to win the fight. If he's not able to secure takedowns and control time, I do think RDA can win this fight. That's why I think the odds are way off. I would not suggest betting Gamrot close to minus 400, but overall, he is going to be my pick. Beware of RDA, always a tough out, but I'll take Gamrot by decision. Next fight, Pedro Munhoz taking on Phillips. We have Pedro Munhoz plus 190, 5'6", 37 years old, 65-inch reach, taking on Phillips, who is now minus 235. He's 5'8". He is 28 years old. He has a 72-inch reach. Kyler, flat out, he's the more well-rounded of the two. I don't think there's really any debate about that. He is athletic. He has good striking. He has decent power. He likes to mix in the wrestling, and he actually has pretty decent submissions. The one knock I have is probably his cardio. Seems like as it moves into round 2, probably around that 1.5 mark, that's where he seems to start to slow down. I don't think it's terrible cardio by any means. It's not Gaziv. It's not like Michel, Jacek, who we're going to talk about pretty soon. It's decent enough cardio. He can still win a 3-round fight. But that's the biggest thing, is he definitely starts to slow at some point. And with Pedro Munhoz, the guy's an absolute junkyard dog. He's played spoiler before. We literally just saw him against Chris Gutierrez as a pretty sizable underdog go in there and play spoiler. He's nearly impossible to finish. He's a talented striker, and he's got good power. And he's also very tough to get to the mat. He is small for the division. He's giving up 5 inches in reach, which I don't love. And he is at the tail end of his career, 37 years old. But he seems to be aging gracefully. I think he's a reasonable underdog shot at these odds nearing plus 200 almost. He's almost a 2-1 underdog. I think he can play spoiler again with the cardio of Phillips maybe slowing down. I think Munhoz pushes a good pace, throws a high level of volume. He could take over as this fight goes on, and I'm willing to at least throw a little bit of a flyer on it. So give me Pedro Munhoz to pull off the upset by decision. That'll be a good fight. I promise you, that'll be a good fight. Back onto the early prelims here. We have Michel Pereira taking on Jacek. Pereira, he is your favorite, minus 150, 6'1", 30 years old, 73-inch reach, taking on Jacek, who is plus 125, 6 feet, 29 years old, 74-inch reach. Jacek used to fight up at 205. He has made the move down to 185, and he has looked like a completely different fighter. I will give him that. He looks much better at middleweight than he did at light heavyweight. He's 3-1 since making the move, and all 3 of those wins are coming by round 1 knockouts. He's a decent striker. He's got big power, but the biggest knock by far, as I just kind of alluded to, the cardio is questionable. And with that, the durability is questionable as well. Takedown defense is pretty terrible. This is a pretty clear spot where it's probably a round 1 or bust situation for Jacek. The thing with Michel Pereira is, so he was fighting down to 170. He's coming up to 185. I think that works well for him. We saw in his last fight, like, he fits the frame of a 185er, no problem. He's actually the taller of the two. He nearly matches the reach of Jacek. I think he belongs to 185. I don't think that's going to be a big problem. And really, the biggest thing here is that he has proven to be very durable. He is very well-rounded, and he's dangerous on the feet, and he has sneaky submissions as well. So I love Pereira in the spot. I think he's going to outlast Jacek in round 1. He's going to take over as the fight goes on. Inside the distance is a great look. Pereira round 2, Pereira round 3. That's where I'm going to look. Give me Pereira round 2 submission. Next fight. This is crazy. Despain taking on Josh Parisian. Despain. He's now minus 415. Okay. He is 6'7". He is 35 years old. He has an 87-inch reach. You heard that correctly. As far as I'm concerned, that is not only the biggest reach in the UFC today, it might be the biggest reach in UFC history. 87 inches is disgustingly huge. And he's taking on Josh Parisian, who's plus 315, 6'4", 34 years old, 79-inch reach. I'm just going to say this. Despain, he's 35 years old. He's a Cuban fighter. He has 4 professional MMA fights. That's it. As I mentioned, 6'7", 87-inch reach. You can't ignore those things. They're absurd. They are definitely going to help him out in any fight that he has for the most part. All 4 of his wins, as you could probably imagine, are first round knockouts. 3 of those were finished in 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and 12 seconds. Those we learn nothing from that. We learn absolutely nothing from that. And I think even the 4th fight that he won by knockout in the first round was within the first minute or so. We have zero clue what is going to happen if this fight even hits the 2-minute mark, let alone the 2nd round mark. Like, what is going to happen if he doesn't get the finish and 2 minutes goes on? We have no idea. Okay. And the level of competition he's been facing has been terrible. 4-0, 35 years old. They're obviously giving him some quick, easy wins. He's now in the UFC. Don't bet this. Please do not bet this. You don't want to be spoiled by Josh Parisian because Despain couldn't get a finish within the first 30 seconds. Blows his load, and Parisian starts to take over. Either we get a very sloppy decision out of Parisian, or he somehow finds the finish. But he's not a finisher by any means, so I hate this fight. I'm not going to pick Josh Parisian. I can't back him. I have to take Despain round 1 knockout. I don't have the balls to take Parisian outside of that. Just do not bet it. This is a circus act. Despain is here to put on a show and nothing more. It's going to be hilarious. I can't wait for it. Despain, round 1 knockout. Just stay away. Please, just stay away. Next fight on the card. A real fight. A good fight. CJ Vergara taking on Almeida. Vergara, 5'6", 126 pounds. We know that. It's a flyweight fight. 32 years old, 68-inch reach. He's plus 360. Almeida is minus 500. That has ballooned in the last few days. 5'4", 30 years old, 65-inch reach. So he's the smaller guy. He has less than what? We got 3-inch reach disadvantage for Almeida, but he's one of these Kazakhstani guys. 18-2 professional record, looks very good. Kazakhstani fighters, if you don't know, it's kind of the new wave. It's kind of the new Dagestani fighter. You see Shavkat Rakhmonov in there. We just saw last night Beksan, is that his name? The guy who fought Umar Nurmagomedov. Like, he's an absolute killer. These guys are tough. They're extremely well-rounded. They have great cardio. They are very dangerous. And I think that's going to probably play into why Almeida is minus 500 here. But in general, CJ Vergara, he's underrated in my opinion. He's got decent striking. He's got good volume, decent takedown defense. And above all, he also has cardio and he's got that dog in him. Multiple times we've seen him battle adversity and bounce back to get the win. That's what you like to see out of an underdog. I'm a little tempted at that plus 360 price tag. I think people are just going to see Almeida 18-2. They're just going to jump on the bandwagon, ride this thing to like minus 800. But Vergara, just make no mistake, he's an absolute dog. He's always going to be a tough out. But overall, we did see Almeida go in there against Ode Osborne. Not the greatest level of competition, but he took care of business in there. He did find the submission finish. I think it was in round 2. If he can wrestle for the majority of this fight, that's where he's going to win for sure. But on the feet, as I said, these guys are well-rounded. They are dangerous. They do have big power, and they can go a hard 15 minutes. So the odds are stacked against Vergara. I think he is a decent underdog shot. But from a pick standpoint, I'm not picking against Almeida, the minus 500 favorite, who's probably going to be minus 800. Give me Almeida to win by decision. Next fight on the card, Joanne Wood taking on Marina Moroz. If you didn't know, this is also a rematch from like 10 years ago. Joanne Wood plus 170, 5'6", 38 years old, 65.5-inch reach, taking on Moroz, who's now minus 200, 5'7", 32 years old, 67-inch reach. The fight that took place 9-10 years ago, Moroz won, early round 1 submission. That's not surprising because Joanne Wood has been submitted in like 5 of her 8 losses. So that's always going to be a winnable option for Moroz because she's already done it before and it's going to be in play again. So overall, both girls fall in the same spectrum. They beat the lower level of competition. If they get the step up, they usually falter. They both throw pretty decent volume. They both have pretty decent wrestling. But again, Wood's submission grappling, not all that good. Marina Moroz does have good submissions and good grappling herself, so that's going to give her an edge. It's also Moroz, the bigger of the two, small reach advantage, and she's 6 years younger. That's probably one of the biggest differences here. 32 years old, you're still right around your prime. 38 years old, not a great look. Not a great look. I do think there is a world where Wood wins this fight, absolutely. I am going to pick Moroz to win by decision. Very low confidence. These are two very similar type of fighters, especially from a level perspective. Don't bet Marina Moroz. Don't do that. But I am going to pick her for the show. Okay? Moroz is going to win by decision. I'm not betting it. And that gives us the very first fight of the night. They're promising you fireworks. Ion Cutelaba taking on Felipe Lins. You have Cutelaba. No odds on this right now. I don't know who was the favorite because this was booked months ago. Then it got scrapped. Now it's being rebooked. So we'll see who the favorite is. It'll probably end up being close to a pick'em. On the Cutelaba side, 6'1", 30 years old, 75-inch reach, taking on Linz, 6'2", 38 years old, 78-inch reach. I have broken down this fight before. I don't really know if my mind has changed at all. I did back Cutelaba originally, kind of regretted it. It got scrapped. We book it again. I think I'm still on the Cutelaba side. It's a total mindfuck because both guys are wildly inconsistent. Cutelaba just famously or infamously, probably more infamously, is round one or bust. He is kill or be killed. He is the very definition of that. But on the other hand, Felipe Lins, like he'll also give you a solid first round, and then after that, the wheels start to fall off. He's 38 years old, former heavyweight, cutting down to 205. He can be dangerous at times, but we've also seen him put on very sloppy, boring decision wins. I do not like the way that Felipe Lins fights, but I also can't say I love Cutelaba because he is, like I said, he's wildly inconsistent. You can't trust him. But overall, assuming we're probably going to get a close to a pick'em line, I'm going to go with Cutelaba strictly for the finishing upside. He's going to fight for your money or die for your money as well because he will go down pretty wildly. It's a tough loss. Whenever you see Cutelaba go in there and lose, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. But either way, he goes hard. He's got big power. He's got submission upside. He's got good wrestling. I hope this fight ends in round one. I think we all should hope for that. Give me Cutelaba, round one submission. And that's it, man. That's it. I think it is 13 or 14 total fights on this card. It's UFC 299. It is a super card. The biggest debate going on, UFC 299 versus UFC 300. Who cares? Both can be great. They're both amazing pay-per-views. Let's be blessed that we have them back-to-back. So enjoy the fights. Good luck on your bets. I'm going to be dropping content throughout the week. Make sure to check it out. Again, Patreon is live. Link is going to be in the description. And we will see you guys next time.